so much for coming to share with us so
Thank you.
generously.
G'day, I'm Paul Mons and I'm also a ex-codeine addict. I actually didn't expect to have that many people here today. So I wanted to share where my pain actually started from. So back in 1992, I was involved in a major car accident off the edge of Mount Dandenong. I was actually in the passenger seat of this vehicle. Club lock saved my life. And the funny thing about this one was every single people from the emergency departments, everyone thought I was dead. No one thought I was actually going to survive. Happened about 10 o'clock at night when off the edge of Mount Dandenong, airborne into a tree which came through my side around and down 30 feet. I was trapped in the car for about 2 hours before I got cut out. Taken down by ambulance down to the Montrose footy grounds and then by police chopper to Austin Hospital. The last thing I remember was the paramedic inside the chopper apologising for not to be able to put headphones on me because I had a spinal brace on. Didn't matter because I passed out and woke up in emergency with 7 specialists around me. And I actually heard my mum and dad in the background, and my mum said, "Paul, wiggle your toes." And all the specialists stopped and looked at her because they all thought I was a paraplegic. And just one of my toes slightly moved, which totally changed their attitude. And at 5 o'clock the next morning, the police rang and said, "Look, we want to finish our report. What time did Paul die?" And they said, "He's still here." And amazingly, about a year later, just some of my injuries that I copped from the accident. A year later, during recovery, I was doing gym work and hydrotherapy. I started chatting with a guy, and I knew his voice. Never seen him before in my life, but I knew his voice, and I didn't know why. Once he left, once I finished, I went down to the pool, got in the pool, and he was there. And he asked me why I was there. And I said, "I'm recovering from a car accident." And that's when he finally clicked and said, "I was actually the paramedic inside the car with you." And he thought I was dead. Everyone, yeah. So that was pretty full on. I spent about 4 weeks in hospital. I was 17 at the time, turned 18 in hospital. I recovered very quickly. I was extremely fit. My goal was actually to play professional football in Europe. This obviously ended that. I still had occurring injuries. I ended up with a shoulder reconstruction about 5 years after the accident. But I started to, no one back then, so that was in 1992, so no one back then really helped with pain. So I actually had a family friend introduce me to Furinol, which is what I started using, and I started using it constantly. And it got to the stage where I just kept using and using and using, and the pharmacists all the time would ask me the same questions over and over again, and it just became standard procedure. No one actually took any personal interest, and I always said to them in the end, "What's an alternative?" And I never heard anything. They just didn't say a word. So in the end, I just said, "Well, just shut up and give me the drugs. Because if you guys can't help me and can't give me alternatives," now I took Furinol / Masindal in the end because Furinol stopped getting made for about 20 plus years. And towards the end, I was taking 12 plus tablets a day. So it wasn't until I met Joyce that I sat down and we went through things. Like our first meeting was about 3 hours long, and she picked up on a lot of things straight away that no GP ever done before. I'll bring this slide up just while I'm talking other bits and pieces to show you what I'm actually dealing with now. And this is all because of Joyce, who's taken the time to sit down with me. The last two there, they're actually permanent injuries from the car accident. If I go back, at the Austin Hospital, all they said to me was you had closed head injuries. They didn't say anything else. And I had problems and I had slow, so I created systems which actually helped me work through a lot of things. Just before I fell ill, which is nearly 5 years ago, I was group parts manager at a Ford, Kia and Mitsubishi dealerships. I had 5 sites I was running. everything, you know, dealing with stress. I was doing 60 plus hours a week. And I was taking a hell of a lot of drugs. I could take 3-4 Masindorns to work, drive, all the rest of it. I took most of my drugs of a night time because I used to wake up. If I didn't, I used to wake up in extreme pain. I spent thousands on a mattress. I've got a temporal pillow, which has travelled the world with me. I don't go anywhere without it. Hence why my backpack's large or rather large, because it's actually got the pillow inside there. So yeah, now I'm dealing with lots of other issues, which is a result of the extensive codeine use, etc. The biggest thing for me was the majority of times, no one really made it personal. It wasn't until we moved to the Gold Coast, and this is before I met Joyce, there was 2 pharmacists at the chemist warehouse at Australia Fair. They actually came out and sat down with me. They were the very first people. So I've been taking this drug since 1992. And they came out, sat down with me and talked to me. Voiced their concerns, why I shouldn't be taking it for such a long period of time, what effects it can have, all the rest of it. And I was actually open and honest with them. Whereas previously, I would just answer the questions and get the drugs and go. Working with Joyce, I finally came off codeine. It was 3 weeks of hell. I was actually still taking 4 Masindor tablets a day, plus alternatives, but I went through, it was about 3 weeks. I wasn't even coming off heroin. I had cold sweats. The body was reacting really, really badly. So the main point for me with you guys is make it personal. Walk up and talk to them. Sit down and find out why they're using it. Learn your alternative products. Joyce was the first to actually introduce to me a whole lot of range of drugs. And the other big thing is we're scared. I was petrified to change because I got so used to one thing and it worked for me. I had to keep taking more and more and more, but it was working. And so the big thing was I was petrified. Just before the codeine ban, there was a webinar that Pain Australia had held, and all the comments from all the other codeine users was exactly how I was before I met Joyce and got off codeine. Same things. What else is out there? They were so scared, and it was so obvious. And I've also been on Facebook pages with Pain Australia, etc. And the main message is that they want to get off it, but they're petrified and they're scared. They don't know what to do. When they get spoken to, it's not really made personal. So that's my big message to you guys. Make it personal. Listen to them. Talk to them. Don't talk across the counter. Don't make it professional. And that's the reason exactly why I dress today like I normally dress. So when I walk in, some people find me intimidating, other people don't. But I'm just a standard patient. So, talk with them, make it personal. They're just as scared to come off it. Warn them about what's going to happen. Try and find out what details. If there's a pain program around your area that does this sort of thing, talk to Joyce. And, help people. That's the reason I'm starting to steer my story, so I can actually help people get off theirs and move on. I mean, I'm still taking lots of different bits and pieces of drugs, and we're still changing things, but I'm not scared to try anything now. For my severe sleep apnea, my GP is way out of the box thinker. The very first time I met him, because I've still got permanent back and neck injuries, he said, "I'll come in the back room and we'll try some laser stuff." And I'm thinking, this guy's a nutter. It turns out the lasers actually work. So they're not going to fix my back and neck, but they maintain. And I get that treatment every Tuesday morning. We're actually experimenting with something for my sleep apnea. My sleep apnea is severe. 46 times on average per hour, my body stops breathing. So that's been like that for about 20 odd years. And I know that because my ex-wife was a nurse and she used to wake up and say, "You weren't breathing." And that was long before I had weight issues and all the rest of it. So we're actually burning, he owns a company called Ooh La La, which is exactly what it sounds. It's a laser cosmetic place in Gold Coast, and trust me, it's full of Gold Coast trophy wives, but that's where he makes his money. So we've actually started burning the back of my throat, which is not enjoyable whatsoever, but we're experimenting because I can't use a CPAP machine anymore. My sinuses have gotten really, really bad. I did a sleep study last week, but Medicare have changed the way things work, so we're going to have to wait a while to get a result to see what's happening. But via the pain program, I've actually learnt what my sleep pattern should be. So the information that we've gotten from that has just been amazing. And I'm lucky enough now I volunteer, I get to see it constantly, and there's actually been changes. I think I did mine about 2+ years ago. There's been several changes each year, and I'm lucky enough to be able to sit there and watch it. So that's my story, guys, and I hope you can actually get out there and start helping people.